Welcome to our Impact Fredericksburg podcast. We're so excited to finally be starting this. With me is Pastor Brandon.
What's up, Gavin?
What's up, man?
How's it going, man?
It's going well. Man, we've been putting this off for so long.
I know. I can't believe we're finally getting around to this.
No,
This is so good.
I'm so excited, and I think it's going to be really great for our church to hear more from you about our vision and what we're going to be going into for this year, for 2024. This is a great way to start off the new year.
Yeah, I think so. I'm really excited for those in our church and maybe those who are just checking our church out online or thinking about church and stumbled upon this. So I think it'll be really great.
That's awesome. Well, in case people haven't met you in person, Brandon, give our podcasting crew just a little introduction to who you are, what Impact means to you, and how you got started in all of this.
Yeah, man, it's a great question. So, I have been a pastor since I was 17. Started out in youth ministry, so I was a youth pastor for 10 years, and then grew up in Mississippi, but then God called me to the Northern Virginia area, which is right outside of DC, and then began a journey in pastoral ministry, met my wife, got married. God called us to plant a church. And I didn't know about church planting, because for me, church planting meant church splitting. Like, it was just people who were upset at church, so they started their own gig. And so God really did a life change in my heart. And we fell in love with the idea of reaching the nations in our nation's capital. And so my wife and I started Impact Church in Fairfax County, Virginia in 2012. And it was a great journey. We had no idea what we were doing. My wife was 24, I was 26. We're probably way too young to be meddling around in that, but it was a lot of fun. And we had some amazing help as well from some great followers of Jesus. We planted that church, and about, 6-7 years in, part of the vision was always to multiply churches. That just means really we would intentionally start another church. Right. And so we had always had that part of our vision, but the timing was never right. Yeah. And when is the time right to send out your best leaders and a bunch of money?
You don't want to have to do that.
It's never a good time for that.
No, it's terrible.
And so we kept kind of pushing it off. And then in the middle of the pandemic in 2020, God said enough. And I think he was doing a kind of a new thing in our world, and was a good time to start new churches. Actually, it was a horrible time, but God said it was the right time. And so that church sent me and my family and some other great families out to start another church about 30 miles south, ultimately 50 miles south of our nation's capital in Fredericksburg, Virginia, the southern tip of Northern Virginia.
Okay.
And so we launched this church, Impact Fredericksburg, in technically in 2021.
Right.
And so at the time of recording this podcast, we were about 2.5 years old.
2.5 years, going on 3.
Yeah.
And, it's incredible to see all of the impact and the change that has come from this mission that you guys are on. So tell me.
Well, and actually, I'll turn the tables because you came. I don't know if you came to our launch service, but you came quickly thereafter.
Quickly thereafter, I had been invited by some friends of ours who were part of the launch, and they were telling us Impact is like no other church you've ever been to, and I mean they weren't really bragging about you or about the the structure as much as it was just a really meaningful community that was starting to grow at a rapid pace. And so we got in kind of right on the beginning end of that, and we're so lucky that we've been able to grow alongside with everybody else.
Yeah, and tell us a little bit about what do you do at Impact?
Well, I am the creative director at Impact, so I handle things like our podcasting. I handle the worship team as well. I'm the service team leader for them, and it's a really cool, a role to be in, to be able to kind of think about the creative elements of being in a church plant. What do you want to focus on? How do you want to zero in on it? And there's a lot of vision that goes into that, of making sure that we're not using social media just to be a bulletin board, that we're not putting out podcasts just to have content, but that it's meaningful and that it ultimately points back to Jesus. That's the end result of what I want to be accomplishing in my role, and in being disciple and the discipling others into that as well.
Well, Gavin, you and your family are so special to us. I say, well, let's talk a little bit about what they can expect in this podcast. It's
Absolutely.
just our introduction.
Set the expectations.
So we're going to be kind of looking over a lot of the things that maybe you would wonder about a church. What is the vision of the church? Yeah, I read it on the website, but what does that mean? What is the mission of the church? What are you compelled to do? And not just, well, again, what's on the website, what do you actually do?
Yeah.
And
a website can only tell you so much when you're not having the conversation face to face. And sometimes that's hard to coordinate. And so that's another reason why we have these podcasts is so that we can add that value that you can only bring that so much on a paragraph format to a website.
100%.
You can't preach about it every Sunday either. There's only so much time.
Exactly.
An hour and a half service.
Exactly. And then we're going to break down some of the values of the church. Like 2.5 years in, what makes Impact what it is? What do we care about? What are the things that, God has gifted us uniquely to help in Northern Virginia? So really excited to be on this journey. And in the coming episodes, you guys will hear about vision and mission and things like that. So really excited.
Yeah, super excited. Thank you, Brandon. We're going to continue on as we go. And yeah, it's going to be fun.
Sounds good. Thanks, Gavin.
All right.